Captain Jiho Park stood on the bridge of the UES Indomitable, watching the stars blur past the viewing screen. After 3 months of faster-than-light travel, they were finally approaching what appeared to be a habitable system. It was humanity's first real voyage beyond their own neighborhood of space, and Jiho felt the weight of history on his shoulders. "Captain, I'm picking up something unusual," said Hana Kim from her station. She was the ship's chief science officer, and her voice carried a note of concern that made Jiho turn immediately. "What kind of unusual?" he asked. Hana's fingers moved quickly across her console. "Artificial structures. Lots of them. This system is inhabited, sir." The bridge went silent. Everyone knew what this meant. After hundreds of years of searching, humanity had finally found proof they were not alone in the universe. Jiho took a deep breath and straightened his uniform. "Open all communication channels," he ordered. "All frequencies. Let's make sure they know we come in peace." The Indomitable broadcast its greeting in every way possible. Radio waves, light pulses, mathematical sequences. But instead of a welcome, 3 massive warships appeared from behind the system's largest planet. They were unlike anything human engineers had ever imagined. Sleek and dark, covered in geometric patterns that seemed to shift and move. "They're targeting us," the tactical officer reported, his voice tight with fear. Before Jiho could respond, a beam of pure energy lanced across space and struck the Indomitable's forward shields. The ship shook violently, and warning alarms screamed throughout the bridge. "All power to shields." "Hana, try to communicate again." But the alien ships weren't interested in talking. They attacked with precision and power that showed centuries of military development. The Indomitable was an exploration vessel, barely armed. Within minutes, their shields failed and their engines went offline. "Prepare for boarding," Jiho said quietly. He looked at Hana. "Take a shuttle. Escape Pod 7. Get back to Earth and warn them." "But Captain..." "That's an order, Commander." Hana's eyes filled with tears, but she nodded and ran from the bridge. Minutes later, as alien soldiers in powered armor cut through the hull, Jiho watched a small shuttle break away from the ship and vanish into the darkness of space. At least someone would make it home to tell the story. The alien soldiers moved through the ship with brutal efficiency. Jiho and his crew were captured and placed in energy fields that prevented any movement. Then they were transported to one of the alien vessels and held in a large chamber with walls that glowed with a soft blue light. For 3 days, they waited. Then, without warning, they were brought to an enormous space station that orbited a beautiful blue and green planet. The station was larger than any human city, a massive wheel of metal and light that spoke of a civilization far older and more advanced than humanity. Inside, they were brought to a vast chamber where dozens of different alien species sat in tiered seats that rose toward a domed ceiling. At the center stood 3 tall figures in elaborate robes. The middle one, with skin like polished stone and eyes that glowed faintly red, spoke in a language that Jiho's translators struggled to convert. "I am High Arbiter Krenth of the Galactic Dominion Council. You have trespassed into our territory without permission. Explain yourselves." Jiho stepped forward, his hands still bound by energy fields. "I am Captain Jiho Park of Earth. We meant no offense. We didn't know this space was claimed. We're explorers, not invaders." A murmur ran through the assembled aliens. One of them, a creature with 6 limbs and armor-like scales, stood and pointed at Jiho. "I am Commander Velthar of the Veltaran fleet. We have analyzed the data from your ship's computers. Your species is violent and dangerous. In less than 10,000 years, you have fought over 15,000 wars. You created weapons capable of destroying your own planet. You nearly drove yourselves to extinction multiple times." Velthar's words caused gasps and hisses from the other council members. The commander continued, his voice rising with passion. "Your kind even created machines designed to kill other humans more efficiently. You poisoned your own air and water in the name of progress. You enslaved your own people, and now you come into our space with your primitive ships and expect us to welcome you?" Jiho felt his face grow hot with shame and anger. Everything Velthar said was true, but he was leaving out the important parts of the story. "Yes, we have a violent history," Jiho admitted, "but we learned from it. We united as one species. We ended war on our world. We chose to reach for the stars instead of destroying each other. Doesn't that count for something?" High Arbiter Krenth raised one hand and silence fell over the chamber. "The fact that you stopped destroying yourselves only means you are now ready to destroy others. The Dominion has seen species like yours before. They always become conquerors. They always bring chaos. "We're not conquerors," Jiho shouted. "We just want to explore, to learn, to find our place among the stars." "That is what they all say," Belthar replied coldly. "Until they grow strong enough to take what they want." Krenth stood, his imposing figure casting a long shadow across the chamber floor. "The Galactic Dominion Council has deliberated. Humanity represents a clear and present danger to the peace and stability of civilized space. They must be eliminated before they can threaten others." The words hit Jiho like a physical blow. "What, you can't? We've done nothing to you." "You exist," Krenth said simply. "That is enough. Commander Velthar, you will take the Third Fleet to the human homeworld. Every human installation in space is to be destroyed. Every ship is to be neutralized. And Earth itself is to be occupied and controlled. This species will be disbanded and scattered, never again allowed to threaten the galaxy." Belthar placed his clawed hand over his chest in a salute. "It will be done, High Arbiter. The Third Fleet stands ready. 10,000 ships," Krenth announced to the Council. "We will overwhelm them before they can organize any defense. In 1 month, the human problem will be solved." Jiho struggled against his bonds. "You're making a mistake. We're not your enemy." But no one was listening. The council members filed out of the chamber, already discussing other matters. Jiho and his crew were dragged away to prison cells deep within the station. As they moved through the corridors, Jiho caught a glimpse through a massive viewport. Outside, stretching as far as he could see, was a fleet of warships. Thousands upon thousands of them, each one capable of destroying a city with a single shot. He thought of Earth, peaceful and unprepared. He thought of his family and soul, his brother's children who loved to watch the stars. They had no idea what was coming. In the darkness of his cell, Jiho could only hope that Hana had made it back to Earth in time. Humanity would need every second they could get to prepare. The galaxy had declared war, and Earth had only weeks to get ready for the fight of its life. Outside the station, the Dominion fleet began to move, turning toward the distant Sol system like a swarm of metal locusts heading toward an unsuspecting harvest. The emergency broadcast interrupted every screen, every radio, every device on Earth simultaneously. Admiral Yuna Choi's face appeared, tired and serious as she delivered the message that would change humanity forever. "Citizens of Earth, this is not a drill. We have made contact with alien life and they are hostile. A massive fleet is approaching our solar system, with the intent to destroy us. Every able person is being called to service. We have approximately 4 weeks to prepare. May we find the strength to survive what comes next." In Seoul, people poured into the streets, some panicking, others standing in stunned silence. In New York, recruitment centers were overwhelmed with volunteers within hours. Across every continent, old grudges and ancient rivalries were forgotten in the face of a common enemy that threatened all humanity. Admiral Yuna stood in the command center of the orbital defense station above Earth, looking at tactical displays that made her stomach turn. Earth's entire defense fleet consisted of 200 ships. Most were converted mining vessels, patrol craft designed to chase smugglers, and a handful of true military vessels built for police actions against pirates. Against them came 10,000 warships, each one more advanced than anything humanity had ever built. "Admiral, Dr. Taeyang Lee is here to see you," her aide announced. Yuna turned to see a thin man in a lab coat, his hair messy and his eyes bloodshot from lack of sleep. Dr. Taeyang had been one of the lead scientists on the now-canceled nuclear disarmament program. "Doctor, tell me you have something," Yuna said. Taeyang pulled up a holographic display. "We still have 1,700 nuclear warheads in storage. The treaties banned their use, but I don't think anyone will complain now. I can have them fitted to missiles within 2 weeks. Nuclear weapons haven't been used in combat for 300 years. Yuna said quietly. "Then we're about to remind the galaxy why everyone feared them," Taeyang replied. His hand shook slightly as he manipulated the display. "I've also been working on something else. The experimental railgun project. We can mount them on asteroids in the belt, use them as hidden weapons platforms." Yuna studied the plans. They were desperate, crude, but they might give Earth a chance. "Do it. Everything you need, you get. Money doesn't matter anymore. Time is all that counts." On Luna Base, Corporal Doyen Han checked his rifle for the 100th time. He was 23 years old and had joined the military thinking he would spend his career doing routine patrols. Now he was part of the first line of defense against an alien invasion. "You think it'll hurt?" asked Private Minho next to him. Getting killed by an alien weapon? Doyen shrugged. Probably the same as getting killed by anything else. Dead is dead. That's not comforting, Corporal. Wasn't trying to be. The truth was Doyen was terrified. Everyone was. But they had nowhere to run. Earth was home. Behind them were their families, their friends, everyone they had ever loved. If the base fell, the aliens would have a clear path to Earth. 3 weeks after the warning, sensors detected the Dominion fleet entering the outer solar system. They came through the asteroid belt like a metal storm, their ships forming perfect geometric patterns that spoke of discipline and experience. Admiral Yuna gave the order. All ships engage defensive pattern Delta. Make them work for every inch. The Earth fleet scattered into the asteroid belt, using the rocks for cover. It was guerrilla warfare in space, hit-and-run tactics against a vastly superior force. The first engagement lasted 7 minutes and cost humanity 12 ships. But they also destroyed 3 Dominion vessels, and the aliens learned that humans wouldn't go quietly. Commander Velthar watched from his flagship as his forces pushed deeper into the system. The humans were fighting with a desperation he hadn't expected. Their ships were primitive, but their pilots flew like madmen, taking risks that no sane commander would allow. Sir, another one of our destroyers just went down, his tactical officer reported. A human ship loaded with nuclear weapons rammed it at full speed. Velthar's jaw tightened. Suicide attacks? These barbarians have no honor. They're defending their home, Commander, said his second officer quietly. I'd expect any species to fight with everything they have under such circumstances. Then they will die with everything they have, Velthar snapped. All ships increase speed. I want to reach their moon base within 48 hours. The Dominion fleet advanced, and the human ships fell back, leaving mines and traps in their wake. Dr. Taeyang's railguns, hidden in asteroids, opened fire at unexpected moments, punching holes through Dominion shields with pure kinetic force. It wasn't enough to stop the fleet, but it slowed them down and cost them ships. When the Dominion reached Luna, they found it transformed into a fortress. Every crater held weapons emplacements. The surface was covered with missile batteries and energy shields powered by fusion reactors buried deep underground. General Nixitera led the ground assault. She had conquered 14 worlds in her career and expected this to be no different. Her dropships descended through a storm of anti-aircraft fire, and she lost half her initial force before they even touched ground. The landing site was a flat plain between 2 craters. As soon as her troops deployed, human soldiers emerged from hidden tunnels and opened fire. The battle was brutal and close, nothing like the surgical strikes Nixtera preferred. Corporal Doyen fired his rifle until the barrel glowed red, then switched to his sidearm. The aliens were strong and their armor was tough, but humans had learned to aim for joints and weak points. When guns ran out, they used knives. When knives broke, they used their bare hands. Fall back to checkpoint 7, Doyen shouted. His squad retreated through the tunnels, triggering explosives behind them to collapse the passages. The base was designed to make every meter cost the enemy blood. Nixtera stood over the body of one of her officers, killed by a human who had detonated a grenade with both of them in the blast radius. She had seen soldiers die before, but never like this. These humans didn't just fight to win. They fought to make sure taking their ground cost more than it was worth. General, our casualties are at 40%, her aide reported. We've only taken 3 square kilometers of the base. Then bring in more troops, Nixtera ordered. And level any section where resistance is too strong. I want this base taken today. The bombardment began, and sections of Luna base were destroyed from orbit. But the humans retreated deeper, into tunnels that went down for miles. The fighting continued in the dark, in narrow passages where numbers meant nothing and both sides bled. Admiral Yuna watched the battle reports with a heavy heart. Luna was falling, but it had cost the Dominion 500 ships and thousands of soldiers. Every hour the base held was another hour for Earth to prepare. Admiral, we have an urgent message from Dr. Taeyang, her communications officer said. Taeyang's face appeared on screen, and he was smiling despite the exhaustion evident in his features. Admiral, the quantum destabilizer is ready. It's crude and we only have enough rare Earth elements for one shot, but if it works, it'll cause a chain reaction in their ship reactors. Where do you want to test it? Yuna asked. Test it? Taeyang laughed, a slightly unhinged sound. Admiral, we're past testing. We use it at Saturn. I've run the calculations. If we can lure enough of their fleet into a tight formation, one shot could take down hundreds of ships. Yuna looked at the tactical display. It was insane. It was dangerous. It might not work at all, but they were running out of options. Prepare the weapon, Doctor. I'll get you your targets. She turned to her fleet commanders. All ships begin retreat to Saturn. Make it look panicked. I want the enemy to think we're running scared. The human fleet fled toward Saturn and the Dominion pursued, scenting victory. They didn't know they were flying into a trap. 3 months into the war, the solar system had become a graveyard. Destroyed ships floated among the asteroid belt, both human and alien, monuments to the terrible cost of the conflict. But humanity still fought, and that was something the Dominion had never anticipated. On Europa, one of Jupiter's moons, the Dominion had established a supply depot. They thought the icy moon was secure, far from the main battle zones. They were wrong. Minji Yoon crouched in a maintenance tunnel beneath the depot, her breath fogging in the freezing air. She had been a civilian engineer before the war, designing ice mining equipment. Now she used that same equipment as weapons. Everyone in position? She whispered into her radio. 5 voices confirmed, scattered throughout the underground tunnels. They were workers, engineers, technicians. None of them had military training. But when the Dominion took Europa, they hadn't surrendered. They had hidden in the tunnels they knew better than anyone and started fighting back. All right. On my mark, we trigger the mining charges. 3, 2, 1 mark. Above them, the depot's main reactor building sat on what the Dominion thought was solid ice. It wasn't. Minji's team had spent weeks carefully melting the ice underneath, replacing it with hollow chambers. When the mining charges detonated, the entire building collapsed into the void below. The explosion lit up Europa's night, and Minji's team escaped through the tunnels as alarms screamed behind them. It was the 7th successful attack they had carried out in a month, and each one made the Dominion more nervous about what else might be hiding in the dark. Fleet Marshal Draxion stood in his command ship above Mars, reviewing casualty reports that grew worse every day. He had started this campaign with 10,000 ships. After 3 months, he had less than 8,000 operational vessels. The humans had started with 200, and somehow they still had ships fighting. How is this possible? He demanded of his staff. They're primitives. Their technology is centuries behind ours. His intelligence officer, a cautious being named Youth, pulled up tactical analyses. Marshal, the humans don't fight the way we do. They don't form battle lines. They don't follow our rules. They attack supply lines, use guerrilla tactics, sacrifice themselves to destroy our larger ships. They're fighting a war of attrition, making every victory cost us more than it's worth. Then we increase the pressure, Draxion said. Bring in the reserves from Veltara Prime. I want another 5,000 ships. Sir, the High Council is growing concerned about the cost. I don't care about their concerns. Draxion roared. I will not be the first fleet marshal in Dominion history to lose a war to a primitive species. In a makeshift hospital on Mars, Hyun Kang worked without rest, trying to save the wounded as they came in from the fighting. She was a medic, trained to heal. But the things she saw in this war would haunt her forever. The worst part wasn't the injuries, it was the eyes. Every soldier, human and alien alike, had the same look. Fear, exhaustion, and a desperate need for the fighting to end. She treated a captured Dominion soldier once, a young one with purple skin and 4 arms. As she bandaged his wounds, he had whispered in broken English, "Why don't you surrender? You cannot win." Hyun had looked at him and said simply, "Because this is our home." Where would we surrender to? The alien had no answer for that. Above Mars, a new legend was being born. Pilot Seojin Bai flew a modified mining ship called the Ghost. It was painted black, covered in stealth plating salvaged from destroyed Dominion ships, and equipped with experimental weapons that Dr. Taeyang's team had cobbled together. Seojin specialized in the impossible. He would appear from nowhere, destroy a Dominion supply convoy, and vanish before reinforcements arrived. The aliens had put a bounty on him worth more than some planets, but no one could catch him. Ghost to command, I've got eyes on a Dominion fuel tanker moving through the belt, Seojin reported. His voice calm despite the danger. Negative. Ghost, that tanker has an escort of 20 warships, came Admiral Yuna's response. I know. That's why it's fun, Seojin replied and cut the channel. He dove the Ghost into the asteroid field using his knowledge of the terrain to lose the escort ships. Then he came up behind the tanker, fired a spread of torpedoes, and was gone before the explosion even finished. The fuel from the tanker ignited, taking out 3 of the escort ships with it. Back on Earth, news of each victory, no matter how small, was celebrated. People needed hope, needed to believe they could survive this. Seojun became a symbol of defiance, proof that humans could still fight back. But the war was taking its toll on everyone. Admiral Yuna had aged years and months, her hair now streaked with gray. Dr. Taeyang barely slept, constantly working on new weapons, new defenses, anything that might give them an edge. "Admiral, we've completed the quantum destabilizer," Taeyang reported during one strategy meeting. "It's ready to deploy." Yuna looked at the weapon specs. It was massive, required a platform to fire from, and took enormous amounts of power. But the simulation showed it could work. "We need the perfect opportunity," she said. "One shot. It has to count." That opportunity came 2 weeks later. Dominion intelligence, confident in their superior numbers, planned a major push toward Earth. They gathered 500 ships near Saturn, preparing for a coordinated assault. Human scouts reported the gathering, and Admiral Yuna knew this was the moment. "All ships fall back to Saturn. Make it look like a retreat," she ordered. Dr. Taeyang moved the destabilizer into position. "We're going to give them a surprise they'll never forget." The weapon was mounted on a small moon of Saturn, hidden among dozens of other mining facilities. As the human fleet appeared to flee in panic, the Dominion fleet pursued, eager to crush the resistance once and for all. Commander Velthar stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the human ships scatter. Finally, they break. All ships pursue and destroy. Show no mercy. The Dominion fleet surged forward, their ships moving into a tight formation to maximize their firepower. It was exactly what Yuna had hoped for. "Dr. Taeyang, you have firing solution?" she asked. "Confirmed, Admiral. The weapon is charged and ready." "Fire." The quantum destabilizer released a beam of energy that was invisible to the naked eye. It struck the nearest Dominion ship and penetrated to its reactor core. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the ship's reactor began to destabilize, the quantum fields that contained it collapsing. The ship exploded, and the explosion triggered a cascade reaction in the ships around it. Reactor after reactor failed, each one feeding energy into the next. In less than 30 seconds, the entire Dominion formation was consumed in a chain reaction of destruction. 500 ships, gone in half a minute. The human fleet stopped retreating and watched in stunned silence as the fireball expanded across space. Even Admiral Yuna, who had known what the weapon could do, was shocked by the scale of destruction. "My God," someone whispered on the bridge. "What have we done?" But Yuna forced herself to remain calm. What we had to do to survive. All ships returned to defensive positions. They'll be back, and they'll be angry. On his command ship, Fleet Marshal Draxion watched 500 of his vessels vanish from his tactical display. He stood frozen, unable to process what he had just witnessed. "Sir, we've lost contact with Battle Group 7, his communications officer reported, voice shaking. "All ships, all 500 ships are gone." Draxion turned slowly. "What weapon did they use?" "Unknown, sir. Our sensors detected some kind of energy beam, but we've never seen anything like it." For the first time since the war began, Draxion felt something he hadn't experienced in decades. Fear. "Send an emergency transmission to Velterra Prime. Tell the High Council that the humans have deployed a weapon of mass destruction. Request immediate authorization for Protocol Omega." His officers went pale. Protocol Omega was the Dominion's ultimate response. Complete planetary bombardment. The total destruction of a species. "Sir, are you certain?" "These humans are too dangerous to be allowed to exist," Draxion said coldly. "They've made it clear they will use any weapon, no matter how terrible, to fight us. We must respond in kind. Earth itself must be destroyed." The message was sent, and light years away, the High Council received it. The debate that followed would determine the fate of humanity. The Dominion Council chamber on Velterra Prime was filled with tension. High Arbiter Krenth had called an emergency session, and every member of the ruling council was present. This was no ordinary debate. This was a war tribunal to decide the fate of an entire species. "Members of the council," Krenth began, his voice echoing through the vast chamber, "we are here to authorize Protocol Omega against the human species. Fleet Marshal Draxion has requested permission to completely destroy the planet Earth. and eliminate all human life in the galaxy. This is not a decision we make lightly. Holographic displays appeared throughout the chamber, showing footage from the war, destroyed Dominion ships, burning stations, casualty lists that scrolled endlessly. We have lost 3,000 ships, Krenth continued. 3,000. Against a species that barely knew we existed 4 months ago. They have deployed weapons of mass destruction, used suicide tactics, and refused every offer of conditional surrender. Commander Velthar rose to speak. His armor was scarred from battle, and one side of his face bore burn marks from a close encounter with a human explosive. High Arbiter, members of the Council, I have fought these humans directly. They are unlike any enemy we have ever faced. They do not fear death. They do not value their own lives. Every battle is fought with absolute desperation, and they will sacrifice anything to hurt us. He pulled up footage from Luna Base. Watch this. A single human soldier, wounded and out of ammunition, detonated explosives that killed himself and 15 of our troops. This is not normal warfare. This is madness. More footage played. Ships ramming into Dominion vessels. Soldiers fighting hand-to-hand against superior forces. Civilians turned into resistance fighters using mining equipment as weapons. They are teaching us why they nearly destroyed themselves, Velthar said bitterly. Because they are capable of infinite violence when threatened. We must eliminate them before they become strong enough to threaten the entire galaxy. The council members murmured in agreement. The case seemed clear, but before the vote could be called, the chamber doors opened and guards brought in a human prisoner. Yejun Nam was a soldier from Mars, captured during a battle 3 weeks ago. He was thin, bruised, and his uniform was torn, but he walked with his head high. The guards forced him to his knees in the center of the chamber, surrounded by hundreds of aliens who wanted his species destroyed. Human, Krenth addressed him. You have heard the charges against your kind. Do you have anything to say before we vote on your extinction? Yejun looked up at the towering aliens around him. He knew he was probably going to die here, but he refused to beg. You want to know why we fight like this? He asked, his voice carrying through the chamber. Because you came to our home and told us we had to die. Not because we attacked you, not because we threatened you, just because we exist. Your existence is the threat, Velthar interrupted. Your history proves it. Our history? Yejun laughed, a bitter sound. Yes, we fought wars. We made terrible mistakes. We almost destroyed ourselves. But we learned. We changed. We spent 300 years building a peaceful civilization. And the moment we reach for the stars, you decide we deserve extinction? He struggled to his feet, ignoring the guards who tried to force him down. You want to see monsters? Look at yourselves. You have the power to destroy entire planets, and you're ready to use it on a species whose only crime is wanting to survive. Who's the real threat here? The chamber erupted in angry shouts. Several council members demanded Yejun be removed. But before the guards could drag him away, a figure stood in the highest tier of seats. The chamber fell silent immediately. General Korvan was ancient even by the standards of the longest-lived species in the Dominion. He had fought in the Great Purge Wars 800 years ago, and had not spoken in council sessions for decades. When he moved, it was slowly, his body bearing the scars of countless battles, but his eyes were sharp and his voice was strong. High Arbiter, I request permission to address this council. Krenth looked surprised but nodded. The council recognizes General Korvan. Korvan descended slowly to the chamber floor, his footsteps echoing in the silence. He looked at Yejun for a long moment, then turned to address the council. 800 years ago, I fought in a war very similar to this one. How many of you remember the Vrikath? The older council members shifted uncomfortably. The younger ones looked confused. The Vrikath were a species we encountered on the Outer Rim, Korvan continued. They were aggressive, warlike, and refused to submit to Dominion authority. We sent fleets to conquer them. They fought back with terrible ferocity. Every battle cost us more than we expected. They used guerrilla tactics. They sacrificed themselves to damage our forces. They turned every planet, every moon, every asteroid into a battlefield. He paused, his eyes distant with memory. The war lasted 40 years. We lost millions of soldiers. We destroyed dozens of their worlds, but they never surrendered. In the end, we negotiated a peace treaty, not because we wanted to, but because we realized we couldn't afford to keep fighting them. Korvan turned to look at the council members directly. The Vrikath survivors scattered into the void, and for the next 300 years they launched raids against our territory, Small attacks, seemingly random, but they hurt us. They cost us resources, ships, lives. We spent centuries looking over our shoulders, waiting for revenge. The chamber was completely silent now. Even Velthar had stopped protesting. I see the same pattern here, Corvin said. The humans fight like the Vrikath fought, with desperation, with creativity, with absolute refusal to accept defeat. And we are making the same mistake we made before. What mistake? Krenth asked quietly. We are treating survival instinct as aggression. We are punishing them for refusing to die quietly. Corvan gestured to Yejun. This soldier is right. We came to their home and declared them unfit to exist. What species wouldn't fight back against that? But their capacity for violence, Velthar began, is no greater than our own. Corvan's voice rang out. Have we forgotten the Great Purge? The subjugation wars? The cleansing of Tarthos? We have destroyed dozens of species in our history. We have weapons that can crack planets. We hold our member worlds in line through threat of force. We are not peaceful. We are simply powerful enough that no one dares challenge us. He turned back to the council, until now. The humans dare to challenge us because they have no choice. And in doing so, they are showing us something we have forgotten. They are showing us what desperation looks like, what survival instinct looks like. And it terrifies us because we realize that any species, when pushed to the edge of extinction, becomes dangerous. What are you proposing, General? Krenth asked. A ceasefire. Immediate negotiations. We end this war before it becomes another Vrikath situation. Because if we destroy Earth, we will not eliminate humanity. Some will survive. Some always survive. And they will remember what we did to their home. They will hate us with a hatred that spans generations. And in 200 years and 500 years they will come back. And they will have learned everything we can teach them about war. Velthar shook his head. You're suggesting we negotiate with them? After everything they've done? I'm suggesting we respect them, Corvan said. Respect their ability to fight. Respect their refusal to surrender. And offer them a place in our civilization as equals, not as conquered subjects. Equals? Several council members laughed at the idea. Yes, equals, Corvan said firmly, because they have earned it. They have proven they cannot be broken, only respected or destroyed. And if we choose destruction, we choose to live in fear of their revenge forever. The chamber erupted in debate. Some agreed with Corvan. Others called him soft and cowardly. The argument raged for hours. Then alarms began to blare throughout the station. Red emergency lights flashed, and a panicked communications officer appeared on the main screen. High Arbiter, we have multiple human ships in orbit. They appeared from nowhere. They're targeting the defense platforms. The council chamber descended into chaos. Krenth demanded, how did they get through our defenses? On the main screen, a human ship appeared. It was smaller than Dominion vessels, but sleek and painted in black stealth coating. A message came through audio only. Dominion Council, this is Captain Sora Lim of Earth's Stealth Fleet. We are here to negotiate. Our ships carry weapons capable of destroying the station and the planet below. But we don't want to use them. We want to talk. You have 10 minutes to respond before we assume you've chosen continued war. Corvan looked at Krenth. There is your answer, High Arbiter. They won't wait to be destroyed. They brought the war to our home. Now we must choose. Do we talk or do we destroy each other? Krenth stared at the screen, at the human ships hovering above his world. And for the first time in his long career, he wasn't sure which choice was right. The 10 minutes felt like an eternity. In the council chamber on Veltara Prime, the most powerful beings in the galaxy stood frozen, staring at the tactical displays showing human ships in orbit above their homeworld. Commander Velthar wanted to order an attack, but High Arbiter Krenth raised his hand for silence. How did they get here? Krenth asked his military advisors. Unknown, High Arbiter. Their ships appear to have some kind of advanced stealth technology. They were completely invisible to our sensors until they wanted to be seen. General Corvan stepped forward. Perhaps we should be asking a different question. Not how they got here, but why they came here instead of using those weapons immediately. Krenth looked at the old general. What do you mean? If they wanted to destroy us, they would have already fired. They came here to talk. The question is, will we listen? 8 minutes had passed. Krenth made his decision. Open a channel to the human ships. Captain Sora Lim's face appeared on the main screen. She was young, perhaps 30 years old, with short black hair and eyes that carried the weight of everything she had seen in the war. Behind her, the bridge of her ship was visible, cramped and functional compared to the Grand Dominion vessels. This is Captain Sora Lim, she said. I'm authorized to negotiate on behalf of Earth and humanity. You dare come here to the heart of our civilization and threaten us? Belthar demanded. Sora's expression didn't change. We learned from you, Commander. You came to our home and threatened us. You taught us that in this galaxy the strong make the rules, so we became strong. Your weapons cannot destroy all our forces, Krenth said. No, Sora admitted, but we can destroy this station, this planet, and everyone on it before your fleets can respond. And we will if you give us no choice, just like you were planning to do to Earth. The truth of her words hung in the air. The Dominion had been preparing to authorize Protocol Omega, the complete destruction of Earth. Now the tables were turned. What do you want? Krenth asked finally. Peace, Sora said simply. We want this war to end. We want you to withdraw from our system. We want to be left alone to live our lives. And in return, we stop fighting. We don't pursue revenge. We offer to share our technology, our knowledge, everything we've learned about survival. Belthar laughed bitterly. Share with us? What could you possibly teach us? Sora's expression hardened. We can teach you how to survive without conquest. We almost destroyed ourselves, Commander. We know what it's like to stand on the edge of extinction and pull back. We learned to work together, to value life over power. Can you say the same? Before Belthar could respond, another figure appeared on the screen next to Sora. It was a human diplomat, an older man in formal attire. My name is Junho Shin, he said. I'm here as Earth's diplomatic representative. We have a proposal for the Council. Speak, Krenth said. Junho pulled up documents. A formal peace treaty. The Dominion withdraws all forces from the Sol system. In return, Earth agrees to join the Galactic Dominion as a member species with full rights and representation. We share technology. We trade, we help each other. As equals. Equals? Several council members shouted in protest. Yes, equals. General Corvin's voice cut through the noise. He had been standing silently, but now he moved to stand where everyone could see him. They have earned it. They brought war to our homeworld. They proved they can hurt us. They deserve our respect, not our scorn. Back in the Sol system, Admiral Yuna Choi received word of the negotiations through encrypted channels. She stood on the bridge of her flagship looking at Earth through the view screen. The planet was scarred from the war. Parts of the orbital infrastructure were destroyed, but it still stood, blue and beautiful against the darkness of space. Admiral, we're getting confirmation, her communications officer said. The Dominion has agreed to a ceasefire. All ships are standing down. Yuna felt her knees go weak with relief. She had been prepared to fight to the very end, to watch Earth burn rather than surrender. Now, incredibly, there was hope. On Luna Base, Corporal Doyen Han sat in what was left of the command center, surrounded by exhausted soldiers. When the ceasefire order came through, nobody celebrated at first. They just sat in stunned silence, trying to process that they might actually survive. We did it, Private Minho whispered. We actually did it. Doyen looked at the young soldier, at the dirt and blood on his uniform, at the haunted look in his eyes. Yeah, we did. On Europa, Minji Yun emerged from the tunnels with her resistance team. They had been preparing another attack when word of the ceasefire reached them. The Dominion forces on the moon were packing up to leave, and Minji watched them go with mixed feelings. Relief that the fighting was over, anger at everything that had been destroyed, uncertainty about what came next. The negotiations took 3 weeks. Junho Shin worked alongside General Corvan and a delegation of moderate council members to hammer out the details. The treaty was harsh on both sides. The Dominion had to acknowledge Earth as an equal member, something that went against centuries of tradition. Humanity had to agree to technology restrictions and oversight, at least temporarily. But the most important clause was simple. No more war, no more attempts at extermination. Both sides agreed to resolve future conflicts through diplomacy, not violence. When Captain Jiho Park was released from prison, he was thin and tired but alive. Hana Kim was waiting for him at the release center, and when they saw each other, they both broke down crying. They had survived. Against all odds, they had survived. The first joint ceremony was held on neutral ground, a space station at the edge of both territories. Admiral Yuna represented humanity. High Arbiter Krenth represented the Dominion. The treaty was signed in front of cameras broadcasting to both civilizations. This has been a war that neither side wanted, Krenth said in his speech, but it has taught us valuable lessons. We have learned to respect humanity. They have learned that the galaxy is larger and more dangerous than they imagined. Together we can build something better. Admiral Yuna's speech was shorter. We fought because we had no choice. We survived because we refused to give up. Now we choose to build instead of destroy. We will remember those we lost, but we will also remember that peace is worth fighting for. 5 years later, the solar system looked different. Human and Dominion ships patrolled together, hunting pirates and protecting trade routes. Earth had rebuilt, though the scars of war were still visible. Luna Base had been turned into a memorial, preserving sections as they were during the fighting, so future generations would remember. Captain Jiho Park commanded a joint task force with both human and alien crew members. His ship, the New Indomitable, was a symbol of the new era. Built with combined technology, it was stronger than anything either civilization could have made alone. On Veltara Prime, the war was studied in military academies. It was called the Humbling in Dominion records, the conflict that taught the galaxy's greatest empire that some species couldn't be broken, only respected. General Corvan retired to a quiet world on the frontier, but before he left active service, he met with Junho Shin one last time. "Do you think it will last?" Hunyo asked. "The peace?" Corvan considered the question carefully. "I think it will last as long as both sides remember what the alternative looks like. War is easy to start but hard to stop. Peace is hard to build but worth the effort." "That sounds like something a human would say," Junho smiled. "Perhaps your species is rubbing off on us," Corvan replied. "Or perhaps we are more alike than we wanted to admit." The old general left and Junho watched him go. The war had cost so much. Millions dead on both sides. Worlds scarred. But it had also opened the galaxy to humanity in a way peaceful contact never could have. They had proven themselves, earned their place among the stars through sacrifice and determination. A new colony ship launched from Earth, the largest one ever built. Unlike the Indomitable that started this whole conflict, this one traveled with an escort. Human cruisers flew alongside Dominion frigates, and on the bridge of the colony ship, the captain was a young woman named Jiwan. She looked at the stars ahead and thought about everything her species had endured to reach this moment. The fear, the loss, the desperate battles, and ultimately the courage to choose peace when revenge would have been easier. The colony ship's mission was to explore the unmapped regions beyond Dominion space. To find new worlds, make new discoveries, and represent humanity in the wider galaxy. They went not as conquerors but as explorers, not alone, but with allies. As the ship jumped to faster than light speed, leaving the solar system behind, Captain Jiwan made a log entry. "We are heading into the unknown, but we are not afraid. We have learned that humanity's greatest strength is not our weapons or our technology. It is our refusal to give up, even when all hope seems lost. We survived first contact with the galaxy. We survived a war against impossible odds. Now we begin the next chapter of our story. Whatever challenges we face out here, we will face them the way we always have. Together. And we will endure." The stars blurred past the view screen as the ship raced toward new adventures, carrying the hopes and dreams of a species that had fought for the right to exist among the stars. Behind them, Earth slowly rebuilt, a blue jewel in the darkness. A home worth fighting for, a world that had stared down an empire and refused to blink. The galaxy had declared war on humanity. Humanity had declared that they would not be erased. And in the end, both sides learned that survival meant learning to live together, not just fight each other. The war was over. The future had just begun.